Oh, we got a banger. We got a banger. Andrew on Steven Crowder. Let's get into this one.
There you go. Welcome to Ash Wednesday. And we do have Captain Morgan, CEO here. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
That's enough.
I'm not
our
smoking.
Guest. Don't jump on our guest. This is supposed to be relaxed, and you see all the tension you just created?
I didn't create any tension.
Andrew Wilson, how are you?
Totally uncomfortable now.
I'm sorry.
Totally uncomfortable now. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. By the way, to the Crucible crew, just enjoying some vodka and soda. Right? Their crew brought in a nice cigar, treated us really well, rolled out the red carpet. Fantastic show, I must tell you.
Yeah, well, just careful because afterwards we're having an eyes wide shut party, and I have a mask custom fitted for you, my friend. You give him the password, right?
Nope, no password.
So, before we go on,
You said those were props for a skit, bro.
No, skit.
We method act. We're gonna Daniel Day-Lewis this. I want you to, for people who are new to you, and I think a lot of people have seen, your arguments, I guess I should say, or debates, particularly on Piers Morgan, Tommy Lahren. We have a clip from that. How would you characterize yourself? Because now things are, there's the red pill movement, and people think of that. Some people conflate the whatever podcast, the Fit and Fresh, Andrew Tate, Black Pill. They throw it all in one pot. So if you were to sort of clarify for them, how would you?
I'm going to interject here and just say that I was caught up in the red pill stuff. Not because I was red pill, but because my name was Red Pill Phil McGill. And yeah, it wasn't this type of red pill that I was referring to. I was referring to the Matrix, where Neo takes the red pill to wake up and search for the truth and wake up from the deception and not be. Yeah. So there's an element of stuff that's, kind of unbelievable in this whole red pill space that kind of just sucks, but at least I was shown the light.
Yeah, well, I can untangle a bunch of that. So my view, I'm a Christian ethicist, and I focused on politics, and specifically politics. I do get in the realm of apologetics occasionally, but you could say that I'm far right, moderately dissident right, something in there. I don't associate myself as being red pill or even part of the manosphere, though I do a lot of debates inside of the manosphere and get along really well with those guys because I've tried to understand their positions, and they have some really good ones. But to untangle what these views are, the Christian right's constantly tangling with the manosphere because they purposely refuse to listen to anything they have to say.
Yes.
And twist it and destroy it. The red pill is, as Rollo Tomassi calls it, a praxeology. I wouldn't call it a praxeology, but what I would say is it's a data packet. So think of everything that is red pill related just being in a file and handed to somebody. It's a series of descriptors, not prescriptors, right? There's no prescriptions, just describing reality. What you do with it from there is up to you. Right. And so what's happened is pickup artists have picked up this file, and now it's going to help them teach men how to get pussy. Right.
Yes.
Or another guy picks up this file. Right. And he says, oh, well, this can help men, with their dating. Other guys pick up this file and they're like, wait, there's some human dynamics here, which we're really missing out on that could really be helpful for men's rights and to advocate for men's rights that a lot of people don't really know about. And so they go that angle. Right. And so it's the red pill itself is not actually an ideology. Sure. It's an idea of descriptors. And then there's ideologues, which will use the descriptors to back up whatever their ideology is.
Right. And we had actually the film Red Pill from Cassie J a long time ago, and Karen Strawn early on in the show, like I want to say 2014, 2015, where we went through the suffragettes. And so the term red pill was around. I think what you're saying in kind of a different way that I describe it is you look at some of these movements where they do have prescriptions, they're right in diagnosing the problem. and sometimes incorrect with the answer. For example, some people, their prescription is sleep with as many bitches as possible,
Sure.
so you know which one are hoes. And I would think that as Christians, believing Christians, we're like, that's probably not good because it's destructive.
That's not good because it's destroying you. It's destroying them. And you're going to swap STDs like socks. I don't think that's a good thing. And for anybody who thinks, yeah, but I'll just go to the health department and get it taken care of, or I'll go to the doctor or whatever, that's gross and disgusting.
To your soul, but
Right.
they're
Yes.
recognizing the problem of promiscuity and the breakdown of gender norms. And I think that's a good way to put it. Description or descriptors versus prescriptors. I will
Correct.
say one thing you do better than anyone, anyone out there, and has caught my attention is lasering in on questions where it comes down to this. We know what the fundamental duties are of men. We know what our rights are. Let's get past that discussion. But no one wants to define what that is for women. And ultimately, if people think that's offensive, you can scream until you're blue in the face. Young men are checking out. They're not getting married. And that's not good for our country. That's not good for our birth rate. That's not good for our society. So do we want to deal with the offense that is the reason for men checking out? Or do we want to simply leave it at, well, that's offensive. We don't want to ever place duties on women.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the fundamental question. So let's take everything, every type of political ideology you can think of, every type of ideology you can think of, and just put them in a series of propositions, logical propositions. If we take a bird's eye view of all of the world, here's what the world really is. It's a series and sequence of men who are killing each other over resources and land. Okay?
Right.
That's what every nation is. That's what every tribe is.
Today it could be over kicks.
Yeah, it could be over. It could be over whatever, right? But fundamentally, that really is what's going on. Now, men intuitively actually understand this. In fact, they don't even have a problem with this, where they're like, "Yep, it's going to be our tribe and your tribe. That's the way it is."
Right.
Right. You don't even really have to describe this reality for them because they just understand that that's the reality. Because of that, what has happened is it falls to the duty of the stronger sex to protect women and the weaker sex. I completely agree that that is true. But also it falls to them the duty of procurement of resources, the refinement of resources, the distribution of resources. And this is at the political level down, the distribution of resources. So that's all politicians ever fight about all day, every day, nonstop. So if we're in the distribution phase, right, men have procured this and, they're distributing it, and it's women and children who are the primary beneficiaries of it and not men. We know what our duties are. They're very complete and they're not very complex.
Yeah.
Protectors, provider, right? And that's how you demonstrate we're the protectors and providers.
Skilled lover, but sure.
Yeah. So what are women? What are their duties? So here's my question. I'll ask you, what is a woman's duty? What are her duties that are on par with that of men?
Well, hold on a second. Before Gerald answers, I think you did a good job because you put him on the spot. I'll give you time to think about it.
Just look what Steven just did there. I actually like that. That was pretty good. He's deferring to Gerald because Gerald apologizes apologetics. However, the fact that women's pretty much only have 2, maybe 3 jobs, really and truly, that duties, let's say duties, he has duties. Number 1, they should have children. They should give their husbands children. Number 2, they should rear those children. And number 3, they should be good lovers and wives and companions to their husbands. And submit to God. So let's call it 4. They should submit to their husbands, submit to God, have children, and nurture and raise those children. It's easy to say that, we're in a situation that we're in and there's no way back because what happens to the women? Okay, well, that's the kind of crap that got us here to begin with. And if you double your workforce overnight, and now tomorrow everybody's pay gets cut in half, the supply and demand gets cut in half.
I think you did a really good job of, and this is something that you also address, overt feminism versus covert feminism. You were on Piers Morgan with Tommy Lahren. A lot of people ran the clip where, there's some back and forth kind of dunking snip.
And Tommy Lahren, beautiful girl, absolutely gorgeous. But her personality is feminine. And I'm not talking about because she's a lady, she's feminine. I mean, I should have said feminist. Like, I'm tough. This is the way it is. I'm gonna lay it out there. Like, that's the problem. That's been the problem. That's gonna be the problem. There is no way for that not to be the problem because it's ingrained into our culture now. And I know he's gonna say it's because of Protestantism, and you know what? It probably is. My family has pulled away from our church, and we've left our church and started doing our own thing because our church went away from what they used to be. And this isn't about that, but this is just to kind of back that up. Like, Protestantism is part of the problem. It's where women get this feminist, I can do my own thing because you're not. God has a hierarchy, period. He has a reason for what he's done. God created it, not the husband. Not the husband. Yet the wives want to go around and say that, well, if the husband's not doing it, the wife will. Okay, well, is God pleased with that? Because I don't think he is. Now you're not only defining your husband, now you're defining your husband and God. And you're walking around cocky and arrogant with this while you're doing it. It's ridiculous.
But a lot of
A divided kingdom cannot stand.
people miss this macro point that you made, which I think is the crux of it.
So I believe there we go again. Piers, I'm a woman of virtue. I happen to be independently successful.
Independently successful. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means you don't need a man. Oh my gosh. There's a bigger woman that's man to the left of her.
Have a husband who's not only a former professional athlete, but is currently a professional baseball coach. So is he not a masculine man? I mean, I'm confused here. What's your concept of a masculine man? Mine is a man who respects me.
Yeah, that misses the point, though. Like, you're still not contending with the argument that I'm making.
What's your point?
I'm saying inside of society, right this second, right, masculinity is not only punished, but also women on the right, covert feminists on the right, are constantly
covert feminists. That's the key. Like, and I didn't even see it until Andrew started pointing it out. I did not even see it. I was completely oblivious to it. Why? Because that was the culture that I was brought up in. That was what I was used to. I was raised by a single mother. Now, obviously, my stepfather come in years later, but that single mother had always been in play. And I love my mother to death, don't get me wrong. But this is a problem right here. This is a problem. This has literally eroded the fabric of our culture and the family. This literally has eroded the family.
And consistently talking about how they need to have privilege in society. I want men. Their version of masculinity is men who take care of us, men who protect us, men who do all of this. Those are all duties that men have towards women. Great. What are the duties that women have towards men? What are the duties that women have towards anything? What do men get out of this arrangement? What are we getting out of this arrangement? Can you tell me?
I mean,
I would argue that men innately should be protectors and providers. Most men are born that way.
We're all going to talk over each other.
Tommy, respond to that, and then I'll come to you, Jez. And then Sean, you've been waiting patiently. So
most men are born to be protectors and providers. I can't imagine my dad saying, you know what, to my mom, you know what, I'm not going to be a protector and a provider unless you do this. That's not how real men operate. Real men.
Now she's going to tell us what real men are and what real men do and how real men are supposed to be. Just like a typical Protestant woman who comes in there and acts like she's the one with the power, acts like she's the one with the deciding vote. I mean, I'm sorry. That's the way it is. And it's beginning to be repulsive at this point. I mean, it's been repulsive for a long time without even realizing it. But now that it's kind of like seeing a train wreck, you know. You not only can you not look away, you can't unsee it either.
And are protectors and providers, and they marry women who hopefully have some virtue, but also bring a lot to the table as well, that are great mothers, great wives, caretakers of the home. There's nothing wrong with being a traditional wife and mother.
Then why are not women not doing that? You're saying there's nothing wrong with it. are you talking about for the few people that actually do that? Because you're not talking about yourself, clearly. You're on a panel full of men talking them all down.
You're misunderstanding me if you think that I think that women should just be out doing whatever they want. I think that there are gender roles that should be respected. But I don't think a man needs to get something out of it to be a manly man, a protector, and a provider.
Yes, he is supposed to get something out of it. He is. What is it? What is he? Is he something for you to use for all of his life? This is bullcrap. This is literally bullcrap. You know what this started? Obviously suffrage, but it really didn't kick off until, I would say, until no, I'm probably wrong. I would say after Kennedy, when LBJ took over and started making all of the changes that they made to where it incentivized women to marry the state, to where they no longer needed their husbands in. I would say this is when, and you know, they say that Reagan come in and rushed through put the no-fault divorce in, basically to move through the backlog of divorces and things to try and hurry through it. There may be some truth and validity to that, but the fact that, and I, like I said, I may be wrong. I think it's from where LBJ took over when Kennedy was assassinated, and basically made it to where women were basically the wives of the state rather than their husbands. They felt like they no longer had to.
If you think you need to get something out of it, I quite frankly don't consider you a real man.
Okay. So a lot to unpack there, as people say. I will say you do need to provide something for him to be a manly man for and solely dedicated to you.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate you actually saying that, because I mean, why would he continue to do it if you're just going to take advantage and you're going to, I don't know. That's a nasty kind of woman right there.
I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding. Yeah, should it be a man in society, but one dedicated to you. Full disclosure, Tommy Loren, if you've watched the show for a significant period of time, has been on. I have no ill will toward Tommy Loren. I just think that was a seminal moment here in this movement, because you've been often misrepresented. Sometimes people are like, he just dunks on whores. Although when in Rome, every now and then.
Yeah.
But that's not what you're about. You really, you are, I hate to use the term educator because it sounds so self-important.
Logician would be a good one.
There you go. Okay. So, and you've talked about the way you approach it.
Yeah. So focused logician, focusing from the Christian ethics side. The reason that this is obviously controversial and stunlocking for people is because they expect, Christians to act in a very effeminate way, because the masculinity of Christianity, especially in the
case anymore. I think those days are over. I think those days are over. I think this is the time for passion, and I mean like bold, fervent passion, not like what he just said. The nice boy Christian is gone. I think it's time for bold, kind of like, not move, follow, or get out of the way. No, but get out of the way. You know, I'm leading now, kind of deal. I think that's kind of like, there is no follow and there is no get out of the way anymore. It's I'm leading, and if it's not fine with you, then you get out of the way. You follow, or whatever. And the results of that can be the red pill. I get that. But it's a cohesive unit. Men and women are symbiotic together, just like plants and humans. We breathe in air and exhale what plants need, and they breathe in carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. So, I mean, it's another symbiotic relationship. Men and women have to have each other to be able to produce and repopulate. And I mean, it's a proven fact that the families are happier, and it is what it is. But leaving error in play and not doing anything about it, it's only going to continue to hurt us farther. And women like this is that error.
Protestant side has been completely.
Femininity is that error. Now, there's nothing wrong with a woman being feminine. Let me preface it with that. I love a good feminine woman. What I don't like is a feminist. Okay? There's a huge difference. Please give me an amen if you understand what I'm saying, because I'm not saying I don't want a girly girl. I want a girly girl. But I want a girly girl who's a girl, not a man in a pretty girly girl's body who's acting like she's got nuts bigger than mine. You know, I don't need you to come to the woods with me and try and stand up and piss farther than I can. I want you to do the girly stuff.
Ducked out by these blood circling viperous sewing circle Christians is what I call them, and they're covert feminists.
That's a long name.
Yeah, yeah. I was like looking for a bunch of adjectives to lace together.
We could maybe just like bumper sticker it to shrill bitches.
Yeah, that's where that word.
But I understand. So you were asking him before.
Yeah. So like, what is and
duty?
I thought this was a really important question that I hadn't really thought as much about until I saw that clip with you and Tommy. I was like, man, this goes right to the heart of some of the things that I've been thinking about and talking with my wife about. Wouldn't it be great if somebody was articulating that for women today? Because it seems to be a huge disconnect. And you can go back biblically and go, okay, well, what does the Bible kind of say about this? Well, it's obviously, having children and raising children, but there's other stuff too. Like when you read Proverbs 31, it doesn't mean that the wife is just sitting at home barefoot, pregnant, and waiting for the husband to come home and beat her up. Like she does a lot of stuff in that, and does things for the family, So I would say my answer to that, and what Tommy probably should have said, okay, is that what you get out of it is children, right? I have the children and I will be a mom to those children. I'll be faithful. I'll take care of the home. And I will be a good wife to you as well as a good mother. And maybe some other stuff, but
our women have. In the beginning, that's what I outlined that a man should get from it. Right there, he should get a good, loving wife. He should get a good children, and he should have nurturing and rearing for those children. But she should also be submissive to the Lord, because without that, you're unequally yoked. It's probably not going to work anyway.
Having children?
The birth rate would suggest otherwise.
So then it appears like perhaps they're failing at their duty, broken, right? So if a woman brings this up as a duty, right, and knows that you can counter by saying, like in Tommy Lauren's particular case, does she have children?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
and so the thing is like, a lot of these women, the reason they can't utilize this as an answer is because they don't live up to the very duty expectation that they themselves would permeate to other people, right? I agree with you.
Why? Because she's a strong, independent woman. That's what she said. She's a strong, independent woman, which means she needs a girlfriend. They've turned themselves into the men that they want. They don't want to be the women. They want to be the men that they want. And then act like that's what we want. It's not what we want. We want a submissive, pretty, girly lady to be a good mother and to be a good wife and a good child of God. That's what we want. We don't want some man who looks like a woman. It's not what we want.
I think that childbirth is uniquely a thing. I mean, only women can do this. And it puts them in a position of privilege in society. And we put them there because they need to be protected, right?
And that's why they didn't have to sign up for the draft. That's why they didn't want initially, as Crowder stated several times, about the bucket duty and the draft and all of these other things. That's why women were the ones who voted against suffrage to begin with. Women, smart women, knowledgeable women who were informed about what was going on, who saw the poison in the well and said, nope, wait, we don't want that. We don't want that. That's not for us. We're good. We're good. Actually, we're good.
Yeah. But what do we get here? We're supposed to be getting the children, and we're supposed to be getting the mom for the children and the dutiful wife and the women of great virtues, as I brought up. Right. Tommy Lauren, the reason this was such kind of a kill shot against her is because what she said was men innately want to just do this for us. Right. Yeah. So what does she do? She instantly assigns herself and all women privilege. we instantly put ourselves in a position of privilege versus men. It's innate for you, Stephen, that you want to buy me nice shit and then watch me put it on.
Yeah.
Like, you're privileged.
The right kind of shit?
You're privileged.
Yeah.
Don't you want me to be happy buying nice shit? And you get to provide it. You're doing you're doing exactly what a real man's supposed to do, and I'm doing exactly what a woman's
Andrew, I have
supposed
to tell
do.
you, you're a horrible salesman.
Yeah.
You really are. Yeah. And by the way, it's not so much the putting on as the taking off that's the fun part.
Exactly.
So let's just be clear.
Come on, let's just be honest here. Wherever disagreements exist,
With your wife.
that's a crowd pleaser.
With your
right.
Let me. Okay, so that is. It was fascinating to me. I will say, I don't want to keep going back to it. That no one answered, not even the homosexual sort of ally in there. No one on that show answered at any point.
Time.
And when they were asked, they still kept coming back to what was clearly an expected duty of men all the time.
Yeah.
And men are checking
And what's
out.
the very first thing they always say? And you'll see it on every single kind of feminist exchange I have. You're not a real man.
You're
right?
not a real man.
You get to make the determination on what men are or aren't, right?
Yeah.
Now, what if I said this back to you? You can't have children?
Themselves have turned into the men. Okay? So that's their point. You're not the type of man that I turned into. Wait a minute. You should be the type of man that I turned into. Because that's what I wanted. No, that's not what we want, though. You're missing the point.
You're not a real woman. How would that go over? Wouldn't go
very
over
poorly.
Oh, it really probably wouldn't go over very well, right?
Yeah.
But if they assigned that as a duty, that women ought.
Real women stay at home. Real women take care of their family. Real women are submissive to their husbands. Real women are subservient to their husbands and to God.
To be moving towards. It doesn't mean every woman can have kids. They can't.
Right.
We know this. But they also should not be trying to provide an environment.
And in this day and age, that's no slight to women that have to work. I understand. I mean, we've slit our own throats. We've slit our own throats by buying into this for this long. And there's no easy, quick way out of it. We have to slowly work our way out of it and work our way back to the norms. But how do you do that? It's not for me. I mean, it's going to take smarter people than me. I'm not intelligent enough. We've went against it for so long. But it's kind of like, the genie in the bottle thing. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Well, I believe we can. I believe it's just going to take like a long time and breaking of new norms, because the new norm is for the women to work. You look at the mortgages, they're sky high. You look at the groceries, they're sky high. The insurance rates are sky high. We have insurance on our homes, our automobiles, our pets now, health insurance. We have insurance on everything that's just as much as our normal stuff. Like, that's a scam. Whether anybody wants to realize it or not, that's a scam in of itself. So, I mean, yeah.
Or other women are not. They should not be moving in society towards a lack of childbirth, but facilitating other women having children and families, even if they themselves can't. And we wouldn't count them out. You wouldn't say, oh, you had a hysterectomy because you had cancer. You're not a woman anymore. That's not what, of course, that's ridiculous. But what we would say is, you've had the hysterectomy, right? And you can't have children. That sucks. But you should still be in society trying to create the conditionals so that other women can.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
Instead
advocating.
of trying to.
And those are the women who should be in society working, doing the teacher roles and doing the nursing roles and doing the librarians and the lunchroom ladies and the bus drivers that want to do that. It was always kind of that way, to where after a woman had raised her children and they moved out, they would either go help their husband if they did that, or they would go get a job of their own at that point. And there's nothing wrong with that at that point. You've made your contribution to society. Now you do it. When we doing what we're doing now, we're asking women to go to school. We're asking them to join the workforce. We're basically asking them to, and not my words, this is other people's words, to defer their childbearing years until after they're boss babe. Well, boss babe, by the time you're a boss babe, you're not going to be able to have children. Not my rules. I didn't make them.
To agitate against it.
I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut, as they say.
Yeah.
Or promote against it. You should be trying to at least lay the groundwork down so that other women can fulfill their duties. And how do I know this? Because that's exactly what men are expected to do. You're in a wheelchair. You can't work, right? You can't provide security, resources, things like this. You still have an obligation, right, to at least attempt to facilitate so that others can. Right. So that you're not getting in the way of other people doing that, and you're still promoting in society that they can. And if you don't, right, you're considered a piece of shit, right?
Right.
Now you're just a crippled piece of shit.
They don't tell you that part about Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah.
I got no legs. Yeah, you piece of shit.
Yeah, you're just a crippled piece.
Right. Yeah.
Well, hold on. As a follow-up, has anybody, not obviously Time of the Wren, because I don't think she has, but has anybody else articulated that to you in private or in some conversations? How is that possible? Because it really is the only logical answer that you can have.
Well, first of all, people don't think. And secondly, there was a feminist on this, on another Pierce Morgan feminist panel I did, the Dunkin' Donuts panel, where the feminist did say, "Why
not sponsored by them?
I think women have an obligation to have children."
Yeah.
Until I pressed her on it, and then suddenly that obligation, she was like, "Well, okay, maybe not, right? Maybe I don't actually think that." Backed away from it very quickly, and it was all back to what men's responsibility to women are, right? Women's responsibilities have been completely thrown off of them since the sexual liberation, right? Since especially the 60s and 70s, the entire thing was the removal of patriarchy. So if you're going to be a victim class, even though you outnumber men, but you're still the victim class, right? Well, then who are your victimizers? Well, it can only be men, right? So if men are in charge of systems, that's what patriarchy is. So women, when you're talking about feminism and covert feminism, you see right-wing women do this all the time, where they try to get an egalitarian caste, right? We want egalitarianism with men at the highest echelons, highest levels. Well, that necessarily displaces male power, therefore displacing patriarchy. And you, as a conservative woman, are supposed to be for patriarchy. You're supposed to want there to be patriarchy inside the household. That's what you advocate for, but not in government. Somehow men are okay to rule their household, but the second they're in charge of the planet, then it's a problem. It's like, what are you talking about?
Well, it's
absurd.
Had only female world leaders, there'd be no wars.
Yeah, except here's part.
Except there would be a lot more wars because men are. Yeah, I'll just leave that alone. Men are probably more compassionate than women are, even though there's the misconception that men are more violent, more warring, and less likely to be compassionate, less likely to show sympathy. We're less likely to be compassionate and be sympathetic and pansy stuff. But when it comes to actual life and death stuff, when it comes to actual stuff that matters, no, we're probably far more compassionate and probably far more sympathetic than women are. It's just the way it is. You look at, and I don't really have examples to point to other than probably like women manipulate, women scheme and con men into getting what they want. They'll use tears, they'll use emotions, they'll use just all kind of little honeyed words and slither and snake poison words and all kind of things. So
part of that red pill packet descriptors, right? There's some famous studies which were done that went back and looked at queens and looked at kings. And turns out when queens were in charge, there was more war, not less war. And the myth of the matriarchy anyway has been
and you look like guys, even if they do get upset, they'll get in a fight, they'll throw some punches, throw some jab words, and then they'll shake hands and they'll be back to normal. Typically, not always, but typically. Women, that's a war that goes on for years. Like they can't even they'll lie. Women are more likely to lie to each other. Men are more likely to be honest and truthful because they don't care about the dude's feelings. I'm sorry you feel this way, but this is the truth, and you need to hear it. Where women, I can't tell if she's fat. Oh no, girl, you look good. Well, you just lied to her. So when she finds out that you're lying, and it goes off of each other. It literally plays off of each other. One will do it, and the other one won't. no, it's not no monolith, obviously. So there are exceptions to the rule on both sides. Otherwise, how did women get the right to vote anyway? If not for effeminate men and pansy.
Completely reduced to rubble. There's never been a matriarchy in all of human history.
Right.
Ever, anywhere.
Qualify that. What do you mean?
So patriarchy is from the father, right? Most of the time, everything is done through what are called patrilineal means. So from father to son, so, this is the change of power. There have been queens, right? But the entire governing body is not women. The entirety of the governing body is always
the queen, maybe. But the whole force entity that backs her up is always men. You look at police forces, some women sprinkled in, and even with the tools, people, and that's the best part, is they think that just having tools is going to make them be able to compete on an even level playing field with the men. It's just not possible. We can never do what you can do. Men can never bring forth the miracle of having a child. That's something that you own. You are 100%. You're batting 1,000 women, and that's your niche, whatever. That's your specialty. Own it. Love it. Be proud of it. But you cannot have the dominance on force. You cannot have the dominance on these enforcement. You can't. It's just not doable. Even with the tools, several police officer ladies have had their guns taken, their cuffs taken, their automobiles taken, and by a criminal who's literally, the size of my mic stand right here. So, and it's a tiny little thing. Just a tiny little thing. It's not ever going to be even. It's never going to be equal. Like, men and women are not equal. You have your strengths, you have your weaknesses. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. They're not the same. They're not the same.
Everywhere, all the time. And essentially, it always has to be that way because we have the monopoly on force. So if you look back through history, you'll see the dumb liberals will say things like, well, in the Arapaho tribe of the Navajos and the, blah, blah.
It's a black comic.
Yeah, we had, it was a pure matriarchy where women were in charge. And then you look into it.
No.
And you find out this is based on progressive nonsense, verbal history, right? This comes down to verbal history. And you go, okay, well, how come it wasn't in our recorded history when we actually started dealing with this tribe? How come the men were making all the decisions in the chiefs? Right? Oh, well, that was because of colonialism. How come there's no recorded history of these matriarchies? Because they never existed. And these people are frauds. And what they do is they say, well, there's a verbal history.
It's the same thing as the dinosaur bones, folks. It's the same thing. The Bone Wars, if you start looking into the Bone Wars, you realize there's so much fakery and deception in that. It's pretty fake.
Right.
No, I'm not saying there weren't dinosaurs. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the bones that were found, the fossils, most of them were forged.
That's what proves it. It's like, well,
ain't that like women to always be happy?
Yeah, where's the anthropology? Speaking of that, women being happy.
Well, you know what? They pulled the same. I just want to say they pulled the same thing with the gender stuff too. They go, well, there are plenty of societies. You go, okay, name one. Yeah. And they go to some Native American tribe where they're like, I guess you could kind of act like a lady.
History. It's through our oral history. And it's like, so you can't prove any of this.
Right. A little more oral history probably wouldn't have such a problem with it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and speaking of the other thing you just said, and this is interesting. You're talking about,
and yes, I just had Chick-fil-A.
When you're talking about the idea of women's happiness, there's been 2 comprehensive meta-analysis studies which have been done, piggybacking off each other, which study women all over the world. And regardless of the conditions they're in, doesn't matter what, regardless of the conditions, no matter how egalitarian, no matter how not egalitarian, no matter if they're in all the positions of power or not, in a comparative analysis, they're always less happy than men, always. So basically, it's just like, even in the conclusions of these studies, it says you just can't make women happy.
Well, I mean, look at the Garden of Eden. I mean, and this is half joke and half serious, but God said, look, you can have from anything in here. Just don't eat from that one tree. And she's like, yeah, but that's not enough. I want to eat from that one, essentially. Because, I mean, and think about that. I mean, now granted, she didn't know and whatever, but half joke and half serious. You cannot make women happy. I don't care what anybody says. It's just not doable.
You just can't.
Well, that would
That is anecdotal. I can't make women happy. Let's just say that. And the bedroom part is, obviously well pleased. So it's not just the bedroom.
also go to the psychological profiles, right? Of, like Jordan Peterson talks about this. I know you two have your differences, but increase, higher level of neuroses. The idea of a mom being a worrier, and some could say that's a biological sort of evolutionary mechanism, right? To be worrying, to be on alert, because a part of your job in a tribe, for example, would be to alert those who could thwart the threat, where you can't deal with it yourself. So it makes sense. In other words, shouldn't be offensive. We go, women tend to worry more and be slightly more anxious.
Well, I mean, none of this should be offensive to anybody, right? In fact, I say that most of this is just like blatantly obvious to the observer. It's like if you ask a person, who's stronger, men or women, right? Yeah. And they go, well, I'm not really sure. It's like, just based on what you observe.
Yeah.
Just like when you're walking down the street and person lift up heavy shit, do they usually have a penis or not?
Right.
And it's like, well, okay, yeah, they mostly have.
You can cut those off these days, though. So
there are exceptions, right? Yeah. There's some women who are stronger than men. It's like,
that's not what I'm talking about.
Well, and the thing that's so funny about that is, it's like, I can see the point. Of course, there's plenty of women out there who are stronger than some men.
Yeah,
I'm not disputing that.
Right.
So what? The exceptions, what proves the rule, right?
Right.
That's what proves the rule. It's like, because you have to point to an exception, you're saying there's a rule.
You're saying there's a rule.
Or how do we get an exception to it?
Right. No, you're exactly. Let me ask you this, because you talk about this, and I think people right now are probably going to go along to say, okay, logically that makes sense. The idea of the duty we've absolved societally.
Andrew is friggin' intelligent, man. I think his wife taught him a lot of this stuff. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong there, but this dude is on his game, man. I mean, it is hard to pull one over on him. Heavenly Father, please bless him and strengthen him. Multiply his power, his brain power, and his conceptual analysis by tenfold. That way he can combat these 304s and these evil people and bring them to you. Amen. And I seriously mean that. Like, because this man is on fire. He has to have some kind of like divine, like, I don't know. It's kind of like Washington. I've said this before. Washington, has been shot down from Native Americans so many times, but it was always holes in his jacket or holes in his hat or his horse out from under him. He never got hurt. Like there was a divine hand on him, like kind of like Trump when he just barely turned and got, his ear nicked. Like there's a divine covering on Andrew of some kind. And it may just be my imagination, but you know what? More power to you, brother.
Especially with the sort of the rise, the ascent of feminism of duties. But let me ask you this on a personal level, because ultimately we do want to get to solutions. On a personal level, on a day-to-day basis, I don't know what the number is right now. I think it's 30-something% of women are going to be single, and young men are uninterested in getting married. And that number by 2030 something, I think it's going to be close to 50%, depending on which numbers you use. So that's
closer to 65% in 25 years.
Right. So that's going the wrong way.
Yeah.
So on an individual basis, what would you identify as the primary problem, or what creates the hesitancy, the sort of reticent nature from men to get into that dating sphere? Because a lot of men are checking out. What needs to be resolved there for men to say, okay, let me give this another go?
Yeah, there's two primary problems. And anybody can look this up with a cursory Google search. It's not even hard information to find. The first is, in all Western nations, the second you hit industrialization and you start promoting that women go to college and defer their childbearing years for college years, right? You end up with an aging populace for women.
Yep.
Your birth rates they just nosedive. It doesn't matter where.
Okay.
Doesn't matter where. Why is that so ineffective, especially for men? Well, by the time, imagine you take women and you not only are telling them to defer their best childbearing years in college, but what is college? It's not like they're going to women's colleges, right? They're going to co-ed colleges. And what happens there? It's basically a den of iniquity and degeneracy, right? So they're getting their face planted in a pillow and rode hard for about 4 years. Then they go out into career world, do the exact same thing, play the field for another 3 years. And by the time they're 30, they want to settle down and give you 1.5 kids. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think most men want a chick who's been plowed 25 times before they get to them, right? And then marry that woman, right, for the luxury of having reasonably unhealthy children. That's why you see such a rise in autism, is an aging population of women. The average childbirth now, 28. Yeah. 28. You go back just 40 years, right? Average was about 19, 20, right? That's where we want it to be. We want it to be in the healthiest years of women for two reasons. One, the health of the child, way, way better, and the health of the mother. Better. Women who have babies in their 30s have a really hard time recovering. Yeah. Women who have babies in their 20s, you ever seen that? Like they have the baby and the next day they're back at work. It's just like a hangover. Yeah, I tell people, think of it like a hangover. When I was 20 and I got really, really, really drunk, the next day I was at work and didn't even think about it, right? Yeah. But when I went and drank too much when I was 30, I called in. Right. Your body just doesn't have that same.
To be fair, I do think there's also sort of a contributing factor there, increased diagnoses in autism because everyone is on the spectrum now. But yes, they both contribute significantly. So I see that you've identified a problem, the problem there. Are you saying that the solution, and I know the second one, but if we go to solution there, is it as a society, we need to stop placing importance on college degrees for women and start placing importance on exemplary women and what kind of.
I'll tell you both solutions. Okay. Let me give you the second part though. Okay. This is the worst part. It's localization. So before the internet, right? How would you meet people? Well, you'd meet them at work or at church socials or through friends or things like that. Yeah. Local, right? You weren't really dating 500 miles away because who the hell did you know? There's nobody in your circuit to even introduce you. So Bob and Sally from the same town met each other, right? And there really wasn't that many other people. You know, you selected from what the pool was that was there, and that was it. Monogamy worked really good for that, right? Everybody basically was able to get and select a partner. Mm-hmm. Well, let's fast forward now. And now we have the problem of mate selection hypergamy, or what's referenced as hypergamy. It's pretty simple. If you're a woman and you have a superpower, right, which they do at about the ages of 17 roughly through 26, 27, where men will literally, castrate themselves to have sex with them, right? They will do insane things in order to get in these women's pants because of this overarching kind of biological need to sleep with beautiful women, right? Well, women within that age range, they're very marketable that way, right? So when they go and they get slip in the DMs of a very famous man, for instance, and he's like, hey, I'll fly you out, right? Then they get wooed and he bangs them, right? And then they think that that's the type of men they can get. As a husband, mm-hmm. or as a long-term mating partner, and they can't. And so now they have trouble making sex selection or making correct sexual selections for themselves because they feel like they're in a league they're not actually in, because men will sleep with you when you have that superpower. Doesn't mean that they'll marry you. Right. So localization is a massive issue. So what happens when you have 20% of the men who are the ones who are the women, all of the women are mostly going for, right? Well, that doesn't leave a lot for everybody else. That's why they're saying men are fucking 10 different, 10 different chicks, 13 different chicks, this type of thing. And this is why these women will ride the carousel and they're not settling down.
I think it's a smaller percentage. I think it's like 7 to 10% of men. Basically, all the women are passing around and sharing like 7 to 10% of the men, because only a certain percentage of men are 6 foot, have 6-pack abs, and make 6 figures or better. So, and that's what women are wanting these days. So. And I'm sorry, CGA, we know you're 5'6", 5'8", ain't 6 foot
until they're 30.
And
right?
I will say,
Just make up your own terms.
There's also something in there, I think, not that you're glossing over it, but it's quite important. Let's just say, for example, like, let's say it's LeBron James. I'm just saying like a famous person, right? Okay. There is the problem of, okay, now someone thinks that they have LeBron as a husband, right? That level of status. But there may be, and I'm just using this as an example. I'm not talking crap on LeBron. They sort of overlook some other facets that, hey, he may not actually bring the qualities to the table that you want in a husband. This may just be a guy who's super famous, super rich, high status, but you take that good and you go, oh yeah, but by the way, he's never gotten married. And by the way, maybe he has never actually been someone who's valued fidelity. Then you have a guy who does, but isn't LeBron James, and you just see what's lacking. And I see that quite a bit.
Well, let me, to give you a little pushback here.
Yep.
Let's evaluate it from a different angle. It is the case that you at least need to be attracted to the person that you're going to end up with, right? Mm-hmm. If that's the case, that you need to have attraction, well, I mean, like, what other things are you willing to look over so that you can have the thing that you, for men especially, visual, right? Yeah. Attractiveness. What else are you willing to gloss over? Can she be a stupid bitch? Yeah, maybe she can. Can she be fucking crazy? Probably.
The crazy high scale exists for a reason.
Could she kind of be a god awful person and a fucking embarrassment? Well, yeah, but she's really hot, right? So it's like, so when it comes to attraction, though, we've missed that aspect for women, right? That women are not attracted to that many men, and so they when you say like husband qualities, right?
Which goes back to what I said. I don't think it's 20 to 30% of men. I think it's 7 to 10, 5 to 10, somewhere in there, maybe even 15 that they're actually passing around and going back and forth between. Because, I mean, I don't know. I got married a long time ago, so I'm obviously not in that percentage.
Oh, sure. They'll even grant all these qualities. Like they make spreadsheets and flow sheets for different men who are in their rosters, right? They'll be like, he would be a great provider. He'd be this, he'd be that. And I'll keep him around till we're in our 30s. And if there's nobody else around who's good looking, hey, I'll settle with him. That's fine. You know what I mean? He can be that guy. But what happens when it's an attractive guy who also happens to be a piece of shit? Well, just like men, they're probably going to select the attractive guy.
I'm not disagreeing. What I'm saying is, so give you an example. I know a story of a woman who was a side piece, okay, to a very successful man. Mm-hmm. All right. And he bought her, I believe it was like a Maybach or something. And then she ended up getting remarried. They ended up getting divorced. But they would get into arguments and she would say like, well, you know what? You don't do an XYZ. And it's like, yeah, but that guy was doing it because you were his side piece and he didn't want his wife to know.
Right.
But she was bringing where this guy was basically fighting a phantom. Like, yeah, but this is not that. You're not a side piece. This is now a marriage. And so it brings a litany of complications as well, where you pick the good and you sort of forget the bad or what was lacking. Sure. And that, it goes back to the point. It's just a different way, I guess, of a.
Such a wonderful point. Such a wonderful point. Women have expectations and standards. And now this goes back to men too, because men have been watching Korn for a lot of years now and have unrealistic expectations on sex. So it goes both ways, but
wrestling, they think that this is a marriage when in fact it's a fling. And the threshold is very, very different for men. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that it's right for those guys to be sleeping with a bunch of women and destroying them for future marriages. But that is a reality, and women will often willingly destroy themselves, and it's a problem.
Look at it like an X-Men superpower that almost virtually all women have when they're between, like I said, the ages of like 17 through 26, 27, and then it kind of just goes away once they meet the wall, right? And the wall always wins. So but through those years, doors magically open for them. Gifts magically show up. Yeah. Right. I mean, dinner is just magically paid for. It's literally a superpower, but men don't really have this superpower except a few. So put yourself in that situation. Like think of it objectively from that situation.
I was talking.
You're a very good looking and successful man who can sleep with whatever beautiful women you want. Is it really so hard to envision that if you could, like that was just dropped on your lap, wouldn't you use it? I think the answer most men would be like, yeah. It's just that we're not really ever presented with that, most of us, right? Mm-hmm. It's very few of us who are. And women, on the other hand, have that superpower for a little while, almost all of them. And that's why you breed such narcissistic women, right? Because they can essentially sleep with whatever man they want, whether they get married or not, but men can't do the same.
Yeah.
Right. So Brian Atlas on whatever, he makes this point often. He says, I would argue that if I can sleep with a woman, she's definitely going to want to date me. But you can't make the argument back that if you can sleep with a man, he's definitely going to want to date you.
Right.
Because a man's going to sleep with you. Basically, all you got to do is show up and open your legs, right?
Yes.
But it's not the same case for men.
Sometimes not even that. Let me ask you, so the solutions.
Yeah, solutions.
Are the solutions, okay, as a society, we need to determine what is exemplary, and that is not, right now, the course is go to college, be independent from a man because you don't want to be trapped, become a working professional, establish yourself, right? So I'm assuming that the solution is the opposite of that. And then what would be the solution to the next one of...
So you start with propaganda. We've been kind of led to believe that bottom-up propaganda is the way, that it needs to be organic. No, it doesn't. You need top-down propaganda like you had in World War II. The same way you got women in the factories with Rosie the Riveter is the same way you get them in the household with, like, you know, Susan the housewife, right? And that's the propaganda that's everywhere. The glorification is of Susan the housewife, you know what I mean? Who has the little like thing of cookies and she's always smiling and she's always super happy and her husband's always, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you make that the trend everywhere and you force it down everybody's throat all day long, every day, where it becomes practically ingratiated in them. That's what you elevate in society. You don't even have to outlaw anything. It's not even necessary. Like, you don't even have to be like, well, you can't, you know, do X behavior. If you had a glorification program top down, just like you do for government propaganda and warfare, it would work beautifully. You don't even need to tell women they can't go to college. You just make the propaganda all about the family unit. And that's the thing the government's supporting. That's the thing we're pushing for as a society. That's the patriotic thing to do.
So basically, exactly how society was before 1960.
Yes.
And
yes.
They need a good maybe a better mascot like Smokey the Mama Bear. Only you can prevent burnt casserole, some shit like that. You know, we'll work on it.
Yeah, sure.
We'll sort of we'll whiteboard it. And the second issue of women who, you know, find themselves in a position where, okay, I've slept with this very attractive, very wealthy guy, and so they're under this delusion that that's their marriage material and it ruins other men. How do you solve that issue? Do we kill all the rich, attractive men?
This is the more controversial take. The first one's much more easy to demonstrate and prove because we have 200 years of propaganda from the top down, which shows Philip Morris can definitely get the country to smoke. Okay.
Yes.
We can definitely prove that propaganda works.
And he was homosexual.
Yeah. The second, well, it wasn't even Philip Morris. It was the ad guy. But he did that for multiple things.
My mind, he's Jim Carrey. So that's the best of my knowledge. But
what,
by the way, people will say that that's offensive. And comment below why you think that what he just said is outlandish and offensive, because it is easily verifiable. That is what we did as a society, and not just American society, European society. You can go back to, for crying out, medieval society. Up
and
until
when everybody smoked, nobody was fat. I just pointed out when everybody smoked, nobody was fat because it was an appetite suppressant.
Yes.
And by the way, you know, most people who smoke never get lung cancer. 90% plus don't get lung cancer. And they have heart attacks because they're fat.
Thank God we're on Rumble and not on YouTube, because that would be fighting. You advocated tobacco use. Correct. It also makes you look really cool.
It does. So anyway, it was a way better society when everybody smoked. Trust me. It was way better. It was appetite suppressant. It was a great way to greet your friends. It was fantastic. We f***ed it all up. But anyway, the point is back to this though. The second can only be belayed with Christian ethics.
I'm going to cut in right here just because I've smoked for 27 years and I just very recently, about 6 months ago now, just quit. And it was overnight. It wasn't because of me. Obviously, I've tried to quit so many times. I say quit. I've tried to quit so many times it's not even funny. And only after, like, you know, praying like my hardest and just telling the Lord, look, I acknowledge that I cannot quit on my own. I am weak. I need you to do this for me. And I realize that sounds like a cop-out, but that is literally legitimately what happened. And not only did he help me quit, he took the craving away. First week, I didn't even have a craving. The second week, I started having cravings. The third week, they started dwindling. By the time I got to the fourth week, I didn't even care anymore. And, I'm 6 months, close to 6 months, 5.5 months out. So I am getting fat, I will say. I'm definitely getting fat. So it does repress your appetite. It does, speed and boost your metabolism. But, it's not necessarily the smoking of the tobacco that gives you cancer as much as it is the chemicals that they spray on the tobacco, the tar and whatever else that they're spraying chemicals on it all day long. And that's basically big pharma or big something is. I would say it's to do population control, basically thin the herd, crowd control, so to speak. Why, I don't know, other than the fact that Satan's pretty much influencing people left and right. So past that,
So the idea of part of this propaganda that you would want to put out is the idea of virtues for women. And you could teach virtues for women inside of classrooms, right? Just like we used to teach virtues for women, same way we used to teach virtues for men. Here's male virtue, right? Here's what men are expected in society. Here's what you're expected to do. Here's what you're expected not to do. Well, one big key of female virtue is what? Chastity. It's chastity.
Yeah.
So if you're reinforcing chastity, you never get put in the position where you're sleeping with a good-looking guy pre-marriage, right? So you're ruined. Yeah. Right? But you have to start that young. That's a way harder thing to get into the mainstream, the idea of virtues, what are feminine and what are masculine virtues being pushed at a young age. That's what the entire transgender movement was about, was the abolishment of virtues, masculine and feminine virtues, to blend them into the idea that all of these virtues are simply universalized. None of them are specific to the sexes. But here's why they have to be specific to the sexes. Because if men are promiscuous, it actually does less harm to society than if women are. I know that seems like unfair, right? But it's true. It actually does less damage.
Also, I mean, you're advocating for
promiscuity. No, the opposite.
No, I always want to make that clear.
Yeah, men
like
should be,
says that men should bang
and
bitches should be virgins.
No. Both need to have that as a virtue, right? But if women aren't chaste, it creates significantly higher problems than if men aren't chaste.
Well, there's not the problem of paternity.
Yeah, or reproduction, or the problem of the revolting factor. So the reason men have such a revolting factor when it comes to high body count, very promiscuous women, is because that's how we assured paternity, through chastity. So paternity tests are a modern invention. I don't know if people remember this or not. Yeah. So how did you know if the kid that the woman was having was yours? Well, it's because she was only fucking you, right?
Right.
That's the only way you could assure paternity. So if you want to know why men get revolted by high body count women, it's actually ingrained inside of men. That's how we assured our prodigy and paternity.
Can I ask you a question, though? And this is one thing, because I agree with everything that you just said. How much level of pushback, though? For example, we showed your clip. Nick DiPaolo was on the show. And Nick DiPaolo's been married for a very long time. People see him as this. He's one of the roughest comedians ever lived. He's also a Family Guy. I don't know if he'll get mad at me because I'm destroying his rep. He's pretty boring. Like, he's not a guy on the road snorting coke off a lady's hip bones. He's a guy, go back, watches ESPN, calls his lady. But he said, I don't think a lot of guys, he's like, when I was young, I don't think a lot of guys want that. They're not thinking about a woman having, because like, they want to bang as many broads as possible. There's a huge contingency of guys out there who are outside of sort of this quote unquote red pill sphere. How much pushback do you think what percentage of men do you think would be on board with what you're proposing?
Well, here's the flaw in his argument. He's right? That, of course, most men prefer to sleep with as many women. Oh, I'm shocked. Yeah.
Is there a study for this?
What? They want to go nail a bunch of child, you know? But here's the counter argument. It's really simple. Most can't. And that's it. That's all you need to know,
that's sad
right?
For them.
So ultimately, most men can't do that. So if you think that most men wouldn't prefer to settle down with a woman and have kids, right? They would, because most of them are simply not capable of bagging tons of chicks. They're not even capable of doing it. But most women are capable of bagging basically as many women as men as they want.
So
right?
basically disabuse both sexes of this fantasy.
Yeah.
This illusion. Disabuse men of this fantasy, even though we agree it's immoral, this fantasy of bagging a bunch of broads, like, look, that's not likely. Also, here's why it's not good long-term.
Yeah.
And disabuse women of the notion, hey, this idea that you're going to get white knight, Prince Charming, multi-millionaire, 6'3" six-pack is also not realistic. So
but here's the thing. It's like, do you remember DARE? That stupid ass program in the 90s, DARE to keep kids off drugs. Did you ever see that?
Oh, I still have never fried an egg.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is your brain, this is your brain on drug. Don't tell me that shit wasn't effective at keeping kids off drugs. It was.
Yeah.
It was. They definitely remembered, right?
Yeah.
Remember, because the girl was cute, it was Rachel Lee Cook.
How is that not propaganda? That was 100% propaganda, right? And now half of it wasn't even true, right? It's like, hey, you're gonna smoke weed and you're gonna be snorting crack, right? It's like, no, that really wasn't true. You're gonna drink a beer and then you're gonna. But the idea,
for me, but not for
the idea for the propaganda though that worked was that, you know, a lot of people were like, they had an aversion to drug use, but what it did was it created a culture where people who did it were considered nefarious. They were considered like, you need to be away from me. You're part of like a more nefarious crowd, a bad crowd, right?
Yeah.
And you need to be over there. Well, that's what reinforcement of virtue really is.
Yeah.
It's saying this idea of these activities are nefarious and you need to kind of keep it away from me. You know, it needs to be, and the same thing would happen with the pushing or promotion of chastity. It would be the same exact thing. Oh, you guys are out there having a bunch of promiscuous sex. That's as nefarious to us as your massive drug abuse, right?
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing. And it's like, you can't tell me it doesn't work because, man, all I've ever seen is these programs work.
Yeah.
To huge success.
But just for people who take umbrage with the term propaganda, there's always propaganda. So if you think that the two mommies, with the girl joining the army is not propaganda, then you're only fooling yourself. Right now, the propaganda has been that women can have it all, that you have all these choices available and they don't lead to different outcomes as far as the timing. It's just not true. So if we're going to have propaganda, and you will, no matter what, I could also just...
Well, they can have it all. But how do they get it all? The same way I was talking about when I first started the video. By turning into the male that they want. Going to college, and then adopted maybe, because by the time they do all that, they're gonna lose the best years of their life, their child rearing years, and they're gonna have to adopt or foster or something along those lines. So
sort of describe it as having an example, having an ideal, then what's best for society.
Well, I was going to say, this goes back to kind of the Christianity. We flipped these things, and I think they realize that they have to go after that duty that we identified, like having children. And the Barbie movie, the very beginning of it was them smashing their baby dolls and going into the workforce essentially, and like saying, I'm going to run away from that. So it's that underpinning where it's like, you don't value that anymore. You value a career. And so all of these choices that you get to make now, don't worry about getting a husband. Don't worry about doing this.
And they only value the career until they get like 10 years into it, 5 to 10 years into it. And then they smashing their heads up against the wall in frustration because they're up against time frames. They're up against crunches and the stuff. They're frustrated. Every career is not like these a day in the life of a whatever that you see on TikTok or whatever else, because those are stupid as hell and they're not reality except for like 2% of women. So
all of these choices now lead to that. The problem that I think we have is, how do we convince women? And look, I use the same argument for homosexuality. That is not where life is found according to Scripture. That is not where happiness is found in Scripture.
But you don't need to convince women.
No, I'm just saying
the opposite.
Well, I think they're finding out the reality of it now, but pop culture still tells you, go and shake what you have and get what you can. Go and be on OnlyFans. Go and do all of these things. Like, pop culture may take a while to catch up, essentially, to what we're seeing in culture. But we've got to make some big structural changes.
To convince women. Women are going to go. So women are the most easily indoctrinated, most easily propagandized out of the sexes. Okay. Every single study you look at will tell you this. They're the most easily influenced, right? That's why all the marketing and shit is towards women, because they buy shit that is insane.
That's because of the pink tax.
Yeah, exactly. It's the pink tax. Yeah. So the thing is,
buy
like,
a black razor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea here, essentially, is, I mean, he's right? Pink razors, you charge a premium for, because women will buy it. Why? Because it's pink. It's
got a glide strip.
But what it really is Susan down the road has one.
Yeah.
Okay. And if Susan has it, she's pretty awesome. The other girls like what Susan's doing. So I'm going to do the same thing. They're the easiest when it comes to propaganda. Men, much, much harder. And here's what we have to deal with. Leftist men, they are the ones who benefit from feminism more than anybody else.
And what I said at the beginning of the video, who are the ones who let this happen? Weak, sympathetic men. Leftist men, essentially.
The idea for disgusting leftist subhuman men that they can have sex with multitudes of women, they love that shit. They think it's great. Like, this is fantastic. Just imagine you're a secular person. You have no ethical code whatsoever. You don't have any moral standing whatsoever. And you're like, it's an all-you-can-eat fucking buffet, right?
And we'll tell them it's liberation.
Yeah, it's liberation. Yes. We're liberating you. I'm on your team, honey. Now, my right? So it's like, it's not a joke, though, right? You think a Coomer gremlin like Destiny would ever in a million years, if he didn't have, $2 million in the bank and a bunch of YouTube fame, ever fuck any of these chicks? Yeah, right. They would literally scrape this shit off their shoe. They'd walk by. They wouldn't even give this guy a second glance. Or a third. It's not even
really a first. I don't think
it's not even a matter of charisma. You can't help what you're attracted to.
Right.
You know what I mean? You think
we have to
convince this guy because of how good looking he was? It's like, give me a fucking break with this shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So
right.
you think we need men? Men need to kind of lead the way. So how do men do that? Because
give them a mission.
You're giving kind of these. It seems like you're just observing what is. You're saying it. In fact, you'd probably be more on women's side than people would give you credit for. Like, hey, again, to that argument, that's not where life is found. You're not going to find happiness there. This is what it's supposed to be like. And it makes everybody happier. Trust me. Don't sacrifice this gift from God to chase a career that could suck or anything else in life.
It's funny when you say you're probably
will suck. It is going to suck. It's just proven. It's going to suck. It's gonna suck, and it won't be long, and you'll be over it, tired of it, sick of it, not even care.
We'll be more on women's side,
and it'll be too late because you've deferred your child years for that.
It's actually ironically hilarious. Did you ever see the movie They Live?
Yeah, with the glasses.
Yeah, the glasses. So he has the glasses. He puts them on, and the billboard said something like, Snapple, and he puts the glasses on, and it says like, obey. Right. And then, he puts the glasses on and he looks over here and it's like, do what we tell you. You know what I mean? This type of thing. It's like, unironically, I want that society. Right. Yeah. And but the reason I do is because I think liberation has enslaved women.
Yeah.
That sexual liberation that has enslaved women and it's enslaved men. I want to break men out of the chains more than anything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Women will end up initially resisting. But convincing women has not traditionally worked.
I sort of present it sometimes this way to people is, okay, now there are always outliers. You have to say not all. Okay. As a general rule, get rid of the alcoholic father, who comes home and he's mad that you burnt the casserole, and so he locks you, change you to a loom or something to make you knit him a sweater without a piss break. All right. Take those guys out of it. And let's also take the awful bosses out of it, like the boss from the Dinosaur sitcom. Okay. Let's assume they're both within that sort of bell curve of moderately decent men. All right. Who do you believe has your better interest at heart? The decent husband, not perfect, or even the decent boss? Because that's your choice. In other words, if you're going to be yoked to something, if you're going to, you are serving a master ultimately with a boss. That is the relationship. And so even if you view it as serving,
I'll do you one better. What do you tell a judge when you walk into his courtroom and he asks you something and you address him back? You say, Your Honor. That's not,
being a master, right? If he's the head of the household, who would you rather serve? The boss or the husband? Which one cares about you more? Because it is a binary choice.
Yeah. Well, like I said, convincing women, the reason it hasn't traditionally worked is because when I think of convincing, I think of logic and reason.
Uh-oh.
If I'm going to convince you, I'm going to use logical arguments, and then I'm going to hope that your reason, right, that you use inductive reasoning to look at the logical argument and you backtrack it, right? You take it back to its original, wherever its core was, and then you move it forward and go, does that make sense or not? Well, you can do that with women. and they'll even agree with you and then dismiss it, because you have to think of it from the purview of their sex. They have raging hormones going on all the time, which makes their brains actually erratic, right? They often will do things by their own admission that don't make any fucking sense because they have these raging hormones going on in their body. Now,
especially in the middle of the month. In the middle of the month, in the middle of their cycle, for about 2 to 3 days, a woman is, I don't know, crazy. Like, crazy.
Every man right now who's going, well, I'm not sure about this. Get back to me after your wife's had a period. You know what I mean? Like, just stop. Just stop.
My wife has said it. My sister has said it. Just for everybody out there, like she said, I don't know why I'm crying right now, but I am. You know what I mean? Okay. Like that's a common example of it. So.
But here's what works. What works is propaganda, because if some of the sisterhood moves towards the propaganda because it's trendy, right? The rest of them move towards that. Men don't work that way. So men we can convince with logic and reason and good arguments, right? And as long as they're at the top of the hierarchy in the public sector, which they still are, we can enforce this through law. The idea of law enforcement, though, being the idea of propaganda, not necessarily putting laws against specific behaviors. You don't even need to do that. Stigma works better. Stigma actually works better if you started at a young age than even putting a law in the books.
Well, I remember that in high school. I remember the girls that slept around were kind of like, oh, those are the sluts, you know, and that just was what it was for us. And I don't look at my generation like, you know,
and it was so effective. It was great slander.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's how good the
like if you slept with a guy, you know, as a girl, like if somebody said that about you, that would ruin your reputation, essentially.
Or Gerald would follow you around in a cutlass.
And I'd be like, so I hear you like to go on dates.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, no, but I mean, I think that makes some sense, because I think ultimately what we're trying to do is fix the problem that we see that is very obvious, that is very corrosive, that can destroy civilizations. You talked about South Korea having, you know, like an extinction level birth rate.
Yeah. So does Japan.
And running that direction very quickly are several dozen other countries, at least. Probably almost all of them, except for a lot of African countries and South American countries. Birth rates are probably a little higher in those.
Right. Let me ask you a question. Let's pretend for a second. I'm not sure. You're married, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Let's pretend you're in the dating market. Your wife will love this. Okay. Let's pretend you're in the dating market for a second. You meet a very fine woman. You like her a lot. She's very nice, right? But she holds out on sex. You know, it's like your third date. She's like, you know, I just don't want to rush it. And she says these words, because I really like you. Really like you.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, okay, that's great.
I know where this is going.
Now you go on 6 more dates with her, right? And she's still not, you know, she's still like, well, I'm feeling it out because I really like you. And you're like, well, that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's virtuous behavior. I like this. But you found out the 4 guys before you, though, she f***ed on the first night. Can I ask you, how would that make you feel that she's making you wait, but let them have sex immediately?
Not good.
Not good.
I wouldn't think I was the choice catch. I would think I was a placeholder.
Like, wouldn't you be like, if you really like me, but make me wait, but you didn't really like them and had sex with them right away, then wouldn't my chances of having sex with you actually go up if you didn't like me?
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you the reason for the hypothetical? Is it because a lot of women who then they reach that point of settling down, it's like they want to start now doing it that right way? And the kinds of guys who would actually appreciate the genuine virtue, no, it's a facade.
It's called, well, this is covert feminism, faking virtue. So what's happening now is they're conforming to your idea of a virtuous woman. Well, a virtuous woman's not a promiscuous woman, right?
Right.
They're just not. That's opposition to virtue. The reason she likes you so much is because you like virtuous women, and she ain't one. So what she's doing is faking virtue.
Yeah.
Say, I'm going to make you wait. I'm going to do this. She's trying to fit all the boxes for what you consider virtue to be. Totally faking virtue, right?
Yeah. Well, my wife and I had this conversation because neither one of us waited. We got married later on in life, both first marriage. We never had, you know.
I thought he'd be single forever.
He did, thinking when I met her, he was like, don't you dare screw this up. She's amazing.
He was
so we basically said, like, look, hey, we've made some mistakes in the past. We would like not to repeat that. But we did that kind of mutually. I think I may have said it first, or it came up in a conversation, because immediately we were like, we both screwed up. Let's not do this the wrong way anymore.
Sure.
Let's give it a whirl. That's a different scenario.
That's totally fair. But again,
I see what you're saying.
If it were the case, though, that you were like, oh, well, the last 3 guys you didn't really like them, And she says, well, no. And you say, well, then come over here and give me a blowjob. Wouldn't that actually make more sense? Like fundamentally, wouldn't
yes,
it?
Yes, it does, Andrew.
It makes more sense.
Stop it.
It makes more sense. It's like but this is what you're running into, right? With the inconsistency in the idea of virtue. And it's like, but you know what would fix that? If she said, well, I'm going to make you wait, because I made every guy wait.
Yeah.
Because I'm still a virgin.
Yeah.
And guess what? You're going to imagine having this gold bar called virginity, right? He's taking over the local pond and throw it on in.
Right.
You know what I mean? In the ocean. It's like you took the most valuable thing you have and you gave it away for free.
Yeah.
You know, your biggest bargaining chip, your most leveraging power.
Right. As opposed to solid gold, most women now they're more like Bitcoin, volatile, and no one really knows the origin.
Yeah.
Let me ask this. Did you always know, or I should ask this, were you always a skilled debater? Did you always approach it through this? Like for me, the Socratic method was something I had to learn after high school. I was never taught that in school. Or was it something you had to sort of train yourself up in?
Yeah, my dad was really big on talking politics around the dinner table, even when I was a kid.
My dad too.
So I'll give you my impression of my dad. This is him when I was 8 years old. He would be in his tidy whities and he would be in a chair like this, and he would be in front of the television when Clinton would be on, and it would go like this. You know, the problem, son, is these fucking Democrats are fucking scum, and that fucking bitch used to be hung for fucking treason, and they're all communist, and they need to fucking die. What's for dinner, honey? Yeah. Right. And I would just,
so good man.
And I thought it was hilarious. Right. But I mean, he would just lose his mind watching it. Right. Mm-hmm. But what would happen is we were around the dinner table and he would explain his reasons for it. He'd be like, listen, here's how this works. And here's why it works that way. And so he gave me the most important thing ever, which was he taught me how to think.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, logic is intuitive anyway. But then you can pick it up and formalize it, and you can, like any craft, you can become more skilled at it, right?
Right.
But the main thing to focus on is focus on intuitive thinking, because intuitive reasoning, every man has a capacity for it. And it's like, but once you start focusing on logic itself as being a format and a prism for which to focus thought,
yeah,
right? You can basically decode the world. Yep. The world right in front of you in just a few minutes. And when people start talking to you, you start realizing that most of the things that they say don't even make sense. It's like, dude, what you're saying right now doesn't even make sense. It's stupid.
I had that moment. Well, I had two moments. My dad, I've given this answer many times, and I'm very grateful to my father for it. And I think we need more dads like him, as imperfect as he may be. Got my first check doing Arthur, was 11 or 12 years old. And he explained to me what taxes were and asked me what I thought about the healthcare system. And asked me if I thought that it was worth X dollars. And if I answered no, I said, well, why not? He said, okay, well, what choice do you have? And just walked me through, these are how taxes work. And I came home one day because I had a drama teacher, so we should give all of our land back to the Native Americans, the indigenous, as I said in Montreal. I said, well, that's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. I asked her if she had heard of scalping. She said, that's so right wing. I went home to my dad. It was the 7th grade. I said, Dad, what's right wing? He said, who told you that? Who said that? I said, well, my drama teacher said, okay, well, let me explain it to you. And you decide whether or not you are. And I walked back in the next day, said, yeah, by the way, I'm right wing. She tried to use it as a pejorative. He explained it to me. Now, that being said, I know that you use logic. That's the fulcrum of all of your debates. But every now and then, you know that it is fun to just throw down some shark bait.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As seen, but we're going to show this really quickly. As seen by this clip with this very unfortunate, I'm looking at the wrong camera. As seen by this clip with this very unfortunate looking lady, previously worked as the junk Muppet from Labyrinth, the infamous Dunkin' Donuts clip.
Nobody's going to listen to you. You're an aggressive, insecure man.
I'm going to tell you what's going to happen.
We're not taking you seriously.
Well, this is going to go viral, and a lot of people are going to take me seriously, and all they're going to remember is that I told you that you couldn't put down the Dunkin' Donuts long enough to make an argument. Now, can you make one or not?
Oh, this is schoolboy.
By the way,
tactic.
A real man doesn't speak down to a woman the way you do.
Oh, a real man. A real man. Wow. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. I'm not even going to say anything.
You're not a real man. You're actually very feminine if you ask me. You're a very feminine man.
and nobody cares what you think real men are.
By the way, I love the juxtaposition of your smirk. And I'm like, that's schoolboy tactics. Because I just was thinking Ebenezer, I'm as merry as a schoolboy.
Yeah.
Like, nailed it.
So rhetoric defined by Socrates, right, is anything which is convincing. Anything. That's rhetoric. So when you're debating, there's two different ways to go about it. The first is pure logic, right? But people aren't that responsive to just purely logical arguments. They need to have like rhetorical flourish or also rhetoric, which leads into the logic, some way to implant it in their brains what it is that you're trying to say. This is how people communicate, by the way. People communicate through rhetoric and then intuitive reasoning, not usually through actual logical thinking. Like step-by-step logical thinking is not how we live our lives.
Yeah.
But rhetoric is very effective. So what happens is I always have like a match energy rule. So if somebody wants to go down in the mud, let's go.
Sometimes it's remarkable how, so we've heard me talk about
exactly what you say. Yeah.
I was compared to jiu-jitsu. I had a coach. He said, you come at me switch, I'm going to be switch.
Yep.
You come at me spicy, I'm going to be spicy. It's that matching intensity.
Yeah. You hit me. If you hit me low, let's go. Right. But if you want to keep it in the realm of just a pure conversation, let's do that. Yeah. If you want to have purely logical debate with no ad homs whatsoever, and we're just going about ideas, great. You know what I mean? But most people, right, when they begin to lose in a logical sense, move immediately into the low blows, right? And so I learned very early on, well, wait a second, not only can I do this, but I'm way fucking better at it than you are, right? I'm way better at the low blows than you. So if you want to go there, let's do it. And so you can make them lose twice in a sense, right? They lose their shit and then they lose on their shit. So, like ultimately you can beat them in two domains. What happened with that woman was she would refuse to make an argument.
Oh, they're going to say she was fat and ugly.
That too. But she refused to make an argument, just refused.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, I just want the argument, And so she got offended.
For people who don't know, she in that clip, because we didn't show the whole thing, where she was like, it must be terrible to be your wife.
Yeah, horror. She started immediately.
You probably got a small pecker.
Yeah, on the whole, like as many low blows as possible. So I was like, well, I mean, you trying to personally attack me is like amazingly funny. You know what I mean? Obviously, there's something I can take immediately.
Yes.
That is very apparent to everybody, and it's going to hurt you real bad, and it's not going to do anything to me. You know what I mean? So, bam, you smack them back. The other chick, right? Same thing there.
Can I continue this because we're just about at time? And for those of you who are not Rumble Premium members, click that button right there. We're going to continue for another half hour here with Andrew Wilson. You can watch his show, The Crucible, on YouTube. And hold on, I want to make sure I have your X plug. What's your X?
At Paleo ChristCon.
Okay, at Paleo ChristCon. And if you are not a Rumble Premium member, continue watching. You will be whisked away to the land of Tim Pool, which probably is, there's probably less friction than, he's more prickly, Andrew Wilson. And by the way, I was just paraphrasing that lady. He has a tremendous prick. All right.
Thank you for watching. I hope you actually watched the whole time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like and subscribe, and there's actually some good to be gotten out of all of this. So let's make families great again. If you want to donate, you can. I'm on PayPal. That's about it. But yeah, appreciate it. Thanks. God bless.